Welcome to Eggs and Issues, a monthly business forum presented by the Portland Community Chamber of Commerce, bringing timely economic discussion to the region for nearly 40 years. Thank you to our sponsors and partners. Presenting sponsors, Martins Point Healthcare, Bernstein Scher, and Central Maine Power. Cooperating sponsors, Harvard Pilgrim Healthcare and Bank of America. Reception sponsors, Clark Insurance, Key Bank, and Pretty Flaherty. Community Corner sponsor, Goral Palmer. Tomorrow's leaders and entrepreneurs sponsors, AAA Northern New England and ProSearch. Coffee sponsor, Skowhegan Savings. Parking sponsor, M People Credit Union. Photography sponsor, Wohler & Company. Media partners, radio sponsor, WGAN. Print sponsor, Maine Trust for Local News. TV sponsor, WMTW Maine CW. Business news sponsor, Maine Biz. Venue partner, University of Southern Maine. And thank you to our special community partners, Anthem Blue Cross Blue Shield, Kennebec Savings Bank, MEMIC, Spectrum Healthcare Partners, Southern Maine Community College, and the University of Southern Maine. And now, please welcome Portland Community Chamber President, Mary Costigan.
Good morning. Good morning, everybody. I am not Mary Costigan. I'm Quincy Hensel. I'm the president and CEO of the Portland Regional Chamber of Commerce, and I am stepping in for Mary as she is out of town today. But what a crowd. Clearly, people want to learn a thing or two about AI, so thanks for joining us today. Today's topic is Beyond the AI Hype, Business Opportunities and Practicing AI Responsibly. And we're going to learn today about ways that your business can practically apply AI and also how to do it responsibly within your organization. Before I invite the panelists to the stage, I do want to take a moment to thank all of our Eggs and Issues sponsors. You make this event possible. It is why we're able to bring you 10 programs every single year with really great content. So a round of applause for all of our sponsors, please. And as always, I want to thank our special community partners. These organizations support everything the Chamber does throughout the year, and we really couldn't do what we do without them. So I want to thank our special community partners. Our community corner this month is Kids Peace, which is a local nonprofit that's making a positive impact in our community. Kids Peace offers a variety of mental health services such as outpatient therapy, home and community-based treatment, and targeted case management, connecting families to needed services. Their therapeutic foster care program trains, guides, and supports their homes with skills necessary to help children who are placed in those homes. May is actually National Foster Care Month, and Kids Peace has several therapeutic homes throughout Maine. However, the community does need more. Many children
May is National Foster.
Oh, hey. Like, did I say something wrong? Sadly, many of these children are actually staying in hotels as they await placement in homes. Foster care is not the only way that you can help Kids Peace children. Please ask what you can do to help. They actually have a table out in the foyer, and I know they will be there after this presentation to answer questions. And I also know I have individuals here from Kids Peace. Can you stand and be recognized? Oh, there they are. And I didn't know this, but do we have a video? Rachel, is there a video? I didn't know we were doing one. We can do one. Here we go.
May is National Foster Care Month, when we thank the heroes who become foster parents. Maybe you too can make a difference in a child's life. To learn more about fostering, contact Kids Peace Foster Care at fostercare.com.
That is great, and thank you to Kids Peace for all the wonderful work you do and the support you provide the children in need, and thank you for being here today. Our Tomorrow's Leaders and Entrepreneurs program allows area high school, technical school, university, and college students to all attend Eggs and Issues at no charge. I do think we have some students here. Can you stand? Thank you so much for being here, and I always let the students know that you ask the best questions at the end of the program, so please don't be shy. We will definitely bring the microphone down to you when we get to the Q&A section. Okay, one quick plug. Oh, I see I've got to say something about parking first. Parking, we do pay for your parking, and you do have to scan this code to actually register your car in the parking lot. This is on your brochures. And if you need help, there is staff and volunteers around that can help you do that. But this is paid, but you do have to log it in the app. And now before we get to our presentation, I do want to do a plug for our chamber's largest event of the year. Everyone get out your phones and put this in your calendar. It's May 28th, 4 to 6:30 at Aura. And we are going to announce, actually this is where we are announcing our winners this year, is here at Eggs and Issues. Our champion award this year is Allagash Brewing. Our Catalyst Award is the beloved Hearts of Pine. Our Collaborator Award is Heather Johnson. She's the former commissioner of the Department of Economic and Community Development. And our Volunteer of the Year is our own Nate Henry. He works at Kennebec Savings Bank and is also the president of Propel. So again, this is our biggest event of the year. It's really fun. It's a huge celebration. We hope you will attend. Also in your brochure, you can scan the QR code and register from your seats. And there's sponsorships available, and Tommy Johnson is your guy in the back of the room if you want to get engaged in this event. So we hope we see you then. So now that I've plugged that, it's time to get on to the program. I would like to invite to the stage today's moderator, Mike Polastri, who's the Senior Vice Provost of the Rue Institute.
Thank you, Quincy. Thank you for everyone for being here today. The turnout's amazing. I hope the Rue students that are in the room also stood up. Yes? Yeah, okay, good. We have a whole mess of Rue students here as well. My name is Mike Polastri. I lead the academic operation at the Rue Institute, and I would like to, before we bring our panelists up, talk to you a little bit about what the Rue Institute is and give you some background. First of all, we are a campus of Northeastern University, which is a global university. It is based in experiential learning, so we're best known for our co-op program. But we are also now known to be the largest global university anywhere, really, with now 14 campuses across the U.S. now, Canada, and London. And our latest campus just opened, actually, in New York City. We are a research university, and our campus is one of the many graduate campuses. While most of the graduate campuses that we have around the world are focused on simply graduate education, we have a very different, we have an expanded mission, really, at the Rue Institute that includes also research and entrepreneurship. So as I mentioned, our mission is different. We were founded 5 years ago through a foundational gift from Dave and Barb Rue, and followed by a generous gift from the Harold Alfond Foundation to be a transformational power in the community, to create opportunity for the region, for Mainers, to take advantage of what's coming next in the tech and life science world. How can we make the most of what is coming for existing businesses? How can we grow new businesses? And how do we make sure our talent pool is ready to absorb it? And we do this really in 3 ways. The first way we do is, of course, talent development. We're a university, after all. So we have degree programs in tech and life science forward programs, computer science, data science, biotechnology, bioinformatics, et cetera. But we also have a program where we do custom learning opportunities with our partner companies and organizations to customize learning experiences, generally not for credit, but to upskill employees, team members in these organizations so that they can be prepared for whatever the next generation is, whatever it is that their organization is looking to upskill their employees to do. The second, so talent is one, right, our learning. The second is innovation and research. We have research that's focused in life science and medical research, engineering research, and with a depth in artificial intelligence and human data interaction, data visualization. And we do this to train our talent pool, PhD and postdoctoral level talent, to solve research problems and innovation challenges that face our partners, and also to seed ideas around new companies, right? And what new ventures can be spawned out of that. And then third, we do research, we do learning, and we also do entrepreneurship. And so we have significant programming that enables organizations to start their companies here in Maine through mentorship programs, residency programs, networking. It's a very powerful set of programs. And most of these companies end up staying in Maine, which is the whole point. So up to this point, in 5 years, we've trained 4,500 students in workplace environments, in these custom learning engagements. And we've graduated just over 400 graduate students from our programs. We presently have just over 700 students enrolled in our master's and PhD degree programs. Our research organization has brought to the university $35 million in research funding over the last 5 years. I want to, though, also mention the entrepreneurship portfolio has now reached 95 companies. Again, significant progress in building the new businesses here in Maine. I forgot to mention the most important part. RU Institute is built around partnership. This room probably has a fair number of RU partner companies. Could you just be recognized? Could you stand and wave your hands or something? Any representative from RU Partners? Yes, okay, great. At the very outset, the RU was started with 10 corporate partners, or 10 founding partners, who engage with us in research or learning or entrepreneurship or some combination. And the goal of the RU Institute is to not just tell people what they need, is to go and find out what these organizations need for their workforce, where their innovation needs are, et cetera. And so we are now proud to have over 200 partners from around Maine and other parts of New England that are involved in delivering our mission. Finally, you probably have driven past the B&M Baked Bean site in the last several months. We are building our new campus there on that 13-acre parcel. The picture that's shown here is a view from the water of the new Alphons Center, which will be our research and learning building. And in the background, you can see the B&M Baked Bean building, which is going to be our, essentially it's going to be our innovation center where our startup companies and entrepreneurship programs will be living. And for those who ask, because I'm always asked, yes, the Christmas tree will stay. It's even in the picture, it's even in the rendering. Okay, so, but you're not here to hear about this. You are here to hear about artificial intelligence. One of the things that occurred when we founded the RU Institute was we also founded the Institute for Experiential Artificial Intelligence at Northeastern. And that makes up a significant portion of what we do in terms of how we support partners. So the goal today is to introduce at a high level, give you some baseline about artificial intelligence, what it is, what it isn't, where the opportunities can lie, and also what the risks and opportunities you have to apply AI responsibly. And so I'm very proud to welcome two colleagues to the stage to have this discussion. Dr. Usama Fayyad, who is the founding executive director for the Institute for Experiential AI, and Dr. Jansu Janja, who is our Director of Responsible AI Practice. Please help me welcome them to the stage. Well, all right then, here we are. Great, I wonder if we could first start off with just introducing yourselves and talk about who you are, where you came from, and what brought you to Northeastern.
Osama Fayyad. I spent all my life doing, my professional life doing AI and machine learning, starting with a PhD from the University of Michigan, worked at NASA Jet Propulsion Lab, got recruited into Microsoft, did a couple of startups from Seattle, got acquired by Yahoo, moved to the Bay Area, became the first chief data officer anywhere. We invented that title as a joke at the time, but the world took it seriously. Left Yahoo, did my own company, Open Insights, took a chance to also do a healthcare startup that was supposed to address all the problems with US healthcare administration. Truly, that was our vision. And then we end up, within 4 years, getting acquired by a company that's very focused on payments in healthcare. Tells you something. And that's about the time. And before that, I spent some time in London, about 3 years, being the global chief data officer of Barclays Bank. And right after Uda Health, the healthcare startup that got acquired, I was approached by Northeastern. And between the Roux Institute and the Northeastern Central Funding, the university had made a huge commitment to basically build what I believe will be the top AI research institute in the world, because we have a unique angle on it that I'll talk about some more. But that's how I landed at Northeastern, and spend a lot of time at the Roux Institute. We have a substantial team I'll talk about here at the Roux Institute, both doing research and doing what we call our AI Solutions Hub, that I hope one day will grow to be one of the biggest kind of data science and AI solution producing factories in the US, if I have my way. And that's how we think we can also impact the local economy in Maine.
We'll dive deep into that. Jansu?
Hi, I'm Jansu Janja. I'm the Director of Responsible AI Practice at the Institute, and I'm also a Research Associate Professor in Philosophy. So giving the same life story. So I have done ethics, applied ethics all my life. So I started with healthcare, actually. So I did my work in World Health Organization, in Harvard School of Public Health here, basically looking at the questions related to all the questions that we have faced, for example, during the pandemic. You know, how do we distribute resources? What do we do with the clinical trials? How do we make sure that the right people are allowed outside while the others are protected? All of these questions are ethically loaded questions, and we work with public health officials to make those questions, answer those questions, also make those questions, ask the right questions. So after doing that, I came back to Harvard Law School for my postdoc, because all of these are also policy-related questions. And in 2017, so not as early as you are, I started working on AI ethics, which was very early at the time. So no one really in town in Boston was doing a lot of work related to how can we guide practitioners who are developing AI systems and using AI systems to do this responsibly, ethically. Which resulted that basically there were not many opportunities, so I started my own lab called AI Ethics Lab. I worked around this question with the researchers, the talent that I can find in a place like New England. It's not difficult to do that. And by the time the scandals started hitting, Facebook, Cambridge Analytica, and all of those, we were quite ready, and we were ready with our content. We had papers, we had workshops designed, and when the Northeastern University started the institute, I was asked to think about how we can implement ethics in an institute like this, basically sitting between academia and industry. So what I do now is I work with a multidisciplinary team of computer scientists, data scientists, philosophers, which are often forgotten in this ecosystem, to directly work with the industry partners to look at the AI systems that they are using, that they are adopting, that they are developing to make sure that they are ethical, and also put in place organizational structures, workflows, to ensure that every time they do this, it is done ethically and responsibly. In addition to that, I work with World Economic Forum to write the guidelines. I work with Interpol to train the police officers and all of those type of things.
Cansu is a unicorn in a lot of ways. There are a lot of, we'll dive deeply into this. So, 5 years ago, Northeastern coined the term experiential AI and decided that the university would invest in this. So, Usama, can you tell us what that means? What is experiential AI and how's Northeastern approaching it?
Yeah, so experiential AI basically refers to me, it's shorthand for AI with the human in the loop, which basically is the only AI that works. Don't be fooled by what you see out there. Don't think that these chatbots don't require lots of manual interventions, guidance, course correction, and so forth. They just don't talk about it. In fact, for a long time, I was very upset with OpenAI for a couple of reasons. Reason one is, back in 2020, they stopped being open, so we have to basically guess what they're doing under the hood, and we can talk about some of that. But then they never talked about how much human intervention they had in training these models. And the first time they talked about it was when the Chinese DeepSeek came out, and suddenly they started crying foul. Oh, those Chinese guys cheated. They used our ChatGPT to train their model and what's called distillation. And why is that cheating? Because they essentially leveraged all the human intervention, all the money we spent on curating the data and adjusting the behavior of the chatbot and so forth for free. Right? And that was the first time they kind of admitted it. But that's the quick answer on what is experiential AI. It also means AI that's driven from doing actual work in the actual world. Like, what happens when you have to interact with it? What happens when you fit it in your business? And it turns out, and especially for generative AI, in the last 10 to 15 years, most of the advances in AI have been happening in industry, in companies, not in academia. The reason for that is simple. Academia has a lot of smart people, but they don't have access to data and problems. And it turns out most of the AI that's impressing the heck out of everyone today is a result, I don't know if you can advance the slide, but it's a result of trying to make these simple. By the way, all of AI is just machine learning today. It's a subset of machine learning, which we call generative models. They're very simple algorithms. Generative models are built on something called the perceptron. The perceptron was effectively invented in the 1940s time frame, published in 1956. And by the way, all the way back then, there was a lot of hype. New York Times ran articles on the front page. Oh, algorithms trained themselves are going to replace humans. That tradition continues. The hype continued along the years. But the point I'm trying to make here is it's really taking simple algorithms that were invented a long time ago and figuring out how to make them work at scale, in real setting, under real constraints. And then the issues that come up are, well, what happens when these things have biases in them? What happens when we use them inappropriately without knowing that they're biased towards certain populations, against certain issues, and so forth, and what kind of risks those expose? So our institute, very quickly, I won't talk much today about the science side of it, where we have a focus on AI as an accelerator for life sciences, AI as an accelerator for health and human performance, and AI for climate and sustainability. All very important areas, all very critical in terms of working with partners on real problems, and that's how we do the advances. Cansu will talk about responsible AI, which is one of the focus core areas for us. But I will talk about kind of the AI Solutions Hub. a little bit, which is, for most companies, you look at, and for your businesses, you look at it and you say, well, yeah, AI may not be very relevant to me. Let me wait and see and figure out what the market says about AI. What is happening is the use of AI in business, especially in the knowledge economy side of it, which, by the way, the knowledge economy is about half the size of the US economy in the US. That gets a huge boost and acceleration from leveraging AI. So even if you're in a business that is kind of physically very intensive, if you're in construction or if you're in the service industry, there's always a back office where you have to make bids, you have to process claims, you have to process complaints, you have to respond to customers. All of those can get a huge boost in acceleration. And I say acceleration, not automation, because we think the human should be in the loop always. Now, what happens if you're not in the game of practicing AI and that gap starts occurring, you can't catch up. By the time your competitor figures it out and he or she has a 30 to 80 to 90% advantage over you, there is no way to catch up. So part of this is you have to participate in anticipation, and hopefully for some of you that we work with, in innovation, because then you can kind of pick up the new technology and so forth. So that's the long story of experiential AI, and kind of the slide here talks a lot about kind of what we do as an institute in general. A lot of our operations are up here at the Roux Institute.
Right, thank you. So there were a lot of concerns in the world among the general public about the ethics of AI, what are the risks, et cetera. And there are, as you described, you're a global champion of responsible AI. What does that mean?
So, simple definition of responsible AI is, what we are trying to do is we want to make sure that the AI systems are developed and deployed ethically, legally. That's sort of like the boring definition. The more important thing to think about is a lot of the important impact that happens on our lives happens through very mundane reasons and systems. So, your insurance not covering you is not exciting question, but it is super important how you live, how you function in the world. Whether or not you get credit, whether or not you get into a university that you want, whether or not you even see the job opportunities that you would like to get or you would like to be considered for. These are, not exciting AI questions, it sounds like, but they are the exciting and important AI ethical issues. Because through these mundane operations, we define how we live. So when we are thinking about creating an AI system for hiring, for efficiency in transcribing the customer service, or for prioritizing the insurance claims, what we are really doing is we are structuring the way that we are being treated by the world, by the society, by all of our, by all the organizations that we are interacting with. And that means that there's a lot of value judgment that goes into these AI system designs. Whose data are you using? What are you trying to achieve? What are you trading off? Are you, in order to get more accuracy, are you letting go of some privacy? Are you letting go of some fairness aspect? Should you be treating people equally, or should you try to get equal outcome? All of these matter in the way that your prospects in life come into existence. And knowing how our life is so much mediated by AI systems now, anything you know about what's going on today, you're probably going to check it through your phone. And that means that an AI system will sort and rank the information that you receive. Everything that you do, where you go on a holiday, what flights are available, that's based on the data that they produce and decide, we should have these flights for these prices. Everything that you do is structured. We are designing the world. And with more AI systems, we are designing the world in a much more hands-on manner. So any question that you are asking in your organization, thinking about efficiency, streamlining the paperwork, transcribing documents, none of them are mundane. They are amazing ethical questions. So what we try to do in a similar way that Usama described here is we don't want to just sit down and theorize about these questions. What we want to do is when you are adopting an AI system, purchasing, procuring, or developing in-house, we want to sit down with you and decide what is the right data to use. What are the right variables to assess this data with? And we also want to make sure that you are using the AI system when you need the AI system, when it really adds value, because more complications you bring in, more risks that you are bringing in. So we want to make sure that value-risk judgment is made at the right pace in the right way. So that's briefly what responsible AI is.
Heard a lot of affirmative nods and such in the audience, so I think that resonates well with people for sure. Usama, you mentioned there's a lot of hype around AI, and really I think people are just coming to grips with what some of the real opportunities are for AI in their life, in their business. Where do you see the real opportunities for this particular audience, for the Chamber, the organizations, these types of businesses that are here?
Yeah, I mean, the opportunities here, honestly, are not, and I sound like I'm hyping it up, but I'm not. There is a new technology out there. By the way, it is not super intelligent. It is, in many ways, quite dumb. It does not have even the simplest common sense reasoning capabilities that we take for granted, and that's why they're called common sense reasoning. But it is very good at kind of taking historical information and bringing it back in the right contexts, which allows you to do things like ask it questions and so forth. Now, there are problems when you do this because the technology is not perfect. This is why we insist on the human in the loop. It often makes errors. By the way, by design, this is how these machines work. Google likes to call these hallucinations. Jansu always reminds me that we should not call them hallucinations. They are errors, because if you say hallucinations, you're attributing too much intelligence to the darn engine. So, and I completely agree, by the way. So what are the opportunities for you? Why should you as a business think about it? Well, it's a mechanism for capturing really IP on how you do your business and leveraging that IP to do your business faster, better, more reliably. There's a lot of interesting opportunities in this space. So for example, you hear a lot about these very large models. They're very expensive, by the way, to train. The last time OpenAI was open, which was 2020, we knew that GPT-3, which was essentially the origin of ChatGPT, had 175 billion parameters. These are the number of weights in that perceptron neural network. 175 billion, and every time they had to retrain it on 1 terabyte of data, only 1 terabyte of data. By the way, if they tell you it's trained on all the data in the internet, anybody who tells you that doesn't know what they're talking about, because the internet is filled with contradictory data, bad data, fake news, what have you. So they curated that whole internet into 1 terabyte of data. Every time they hit the train button for that model, GPT-3, which is now old, was $3 million of electricity just to train it. We think, and I say we think because OpenAI won't tell us. My estimate is every time you hit the train button on GPT 4.40, it's about $15 million of electricity, right? Not counting all the data curation, not counting all the interventions and all the what's called fine-tuning in the industry. All to train these things that scientifically we call stochastic parrots. They are parrots because they're just parroting back what they've seen in the data. They don't understand it. They don't even say it a word at a time. They say it a token at a time. And by the way, a token is something that is not human. Each human word in English is about 2 to 3 tokens, right? So that's the space they operate in. So these, and they're stochastic because they are random in the nature of what they produce. So all of this, why am I telling you all of this and why is this relevant? Because all of this expense is irrelevant to most of the businesses, right? It's a great way to show the capabilities of the technology. But when it comes to your business applications, We are strong believers in what we call small language models, or SLMs, rather than large language models. These are much faster to train, really, really cheap, way, way cheaper than the free DeepSeek, by the way. And because they're narrow in their focus, because they're focused on your business problem, they're much more stable. So they tend to make errors fewer. And then when they make errors and you correct them as part of your doing your business, say, no, no, that's the wrong answer. Good luck getting a large model retrained based on your feedback that this is the wrong answer, because it's so expensive to train it, they don't touch it. Like GPT-4o, I don't know what's happening with 4.5. We know 4o, the last snapshot of data it had was in 2023. It is so expensive to train it that they didn't touch the large language machine that got produced since 2023, right? So with that said, what does this all mean to you, right? Well, there's a complicated story. How do I build these small language models? How do they fit in my business? Well, this is where we come in with the Roux Institute. We would love to partner with you to basically say, let's look at the business problem you have. Let's figure out what kind of cheap, fast, small language model fits in, gives you your own way of collecting IP and building acceleration into your business, and gives you that posture, that ability to respond should a competitor figure out how to use that technology. And I assure you they will. Because the acceleration is so big, people will not ignore this technology. It's coming, regardless of how old the industry is and how far you think you are from the forefront of AI. Now, why do we love these highly applied problems? We have our own selfish reasons. Number one is we believe they will drive the right research agenda where we get to focus on what does it take to make this work in a real setting, and that's where the innovation happens. And then the second part is our students. We love to expose our students to what it takes to make AI work in the real world, under real constraints. What happens when half the data is missing and 1/3 of what's there is wrong? How do you make the algorithm work? That's where the art of doing AI is. And if our students are exposed to that, and this is very consistent with experiential learning and the co-op program, then they graduate ready to contribute on the job they want. They will have much more demand for their skills in the market because, as a company, when I used to hire data scientists as an example, my model is the first 2 years of a data scientist, fresh grad, are useless because they have to unlearn all the bad habits they picked up in the classroom, where it's all sanitized conditions and things work. Much like in medicine, people do a year in residency, and 80 to 90% of what they do day to day has nothing to do with the courses they took. It has to do with how medicine is practiced with humans and nurses and administrations and hospitals. So we love to get our hands dirty with the problems. We'd love to partner. And we think the partnership results in a huge benefit to the businesses and a huge benefits to academia and training, and hopefully producing the kind of people that you'd hire next as you manage to leverage AI to grow your businesses.
So Cansu, can you, the chamber represents a wide range of sectors, healthcare and finance and insurance and manufacturing, et cetera. Can you talk a little bit about how different sectors think about the different risks that they should be considering when they're thinking about applying artificial intelligence?
Yeah, so one way to think about, okay, so actually gonna take a step back. So one thing to understand about ethics is that we are not just, having like a lofty conversation and intend well and it will just come out well, just mean the good thing. Well, that's not what we are trying to do. What we are trying to do is we want to make sure that we analyze the systems and we find solutions, and we come up with design solutions. We come up with development solutions and application solutions so that we resolve the ethical questions, mitigate the risks, and put in place a way of deployment where we are quite certain that the harm is as minimized as we can possibly get to. We increase the value, meaning the value for your business as well as the value for your customers, clients, meaning the value for society. We want to make sure that all of these benefits are distributed fairly, whatever that means in the given context. And we want to make sure that we as humans understand what we are doing so that we can make sure that we use these AI systems correctly. We can fix them. We can see when they are broken. We can flag when there's a problem. We talk about human in the loop a lot, but think about it like this. If you put me in the cockpit of a plane and tell me that I am the human in the loop, and if something goes wrong, I should interfere, I would have no clue what to do, and we will crash. So talking about human in the loop requires me to understand how this plane works, what is my job, when am I supposed to be alerted, and what can I do in response? And also, in order to get me into the cockpit, you have to first convince me that this thing will fly, and it's somewhat safe to be in. So I need some sort of audit mechanisms that says, OK, you can actually step in and be the human in the loop. So now, once we think about the specific sectors, you all know your sectors, and they all have their own risks. If you are in healthcare, it comes with its own risk landscape. Finance comes its own risk landscape, and something like entertainment, obviously a lot less, but still its own landscape. And what we do is, when we see a project, the first thing that we do is we put that out there. We understand the domain risk. So if we are talking about finance, for example, an important thing to realize is that the historical information, historical data, often does not include a lot of the population who could be great customers, who need financial institutions to work with, but they don't exist in the data. And AI sees what data sees. So if it doesn't exist in the data, if you haven't been leaving a data trail, you don't exist. So we want to make sure that we understand this financial structure before we turn to the risks of the technology. Once we get this, then we look at the technology. What do you need? Do you need a different risk assessment system? Is this predicting the best customer? It's making sure that you have the right product offered to the right customer. OK, but that also comes with its own risks. Any risk assessment, any ranking technology has its own risks. So we assess that, and then we intersect them, and we come up with the risk metrics, basically. Then we figure out where to interfere. Do we need more data? Do we need the correct data? Should we change the model? Do we need generative AI, where, for example, for transcribing the transcription purposes, well, generative AI will just add things when it cannot, where it doesn't seem to make sense, it's just going to generate information. That might be OK if you're doing customer services for entertainment. It is not OK if you're transcribing healthcare information, for example. So you want to potentially use a different type of model. So what is the right model to use? And then all of this ends with you, in your hands. We are not just like creating the AI and run by yourself. Well, you will have to use it, so the people part of it. And that brings us to who should do what. So when we say responsible AI, AI is never the responsible party. It's a shorthand to say responsible development and deployment of AI systems. You are responsible. Do you know what you are responsible for? What are the risks that you are mitigating? What are the opportunities that you are getting out of this system? And we always talk about risk when we talk about responsible AI because that's sort of the thing that grabs the attention. But the reason why we work in AI is because the world is highly inefficient, and we lose a lot of time and opportunity to make things better for all of us. So that is an ethical reason to use AI systems, to make sure that you increase your efficiency as long as you reduce your risks.
And just to emphasize the point, this is not theoretical. This is stuff we are doing and we are practicing actually even in the state of Maine with certain partners. I didn't mention any names here, but I'll mention a few. Yesterday, I was speaking with a large segment of the executive team and some of the AI-trained cohort of Bangor Savings Bank. But we started with Bangor Savings Bank with a small assignment where they said, build us a recommendation engine that helps us help customers build trust in the bank. That was the job. Turned out that the recommendation engine had good impact in the bank. Some of it I didn't even know about until Bob, the CEO, kind of surprised me with it when I was doing a briefing of the board there. So he went and extended it to say, I want everyone in the bank to become, at a minimum, AI aware, and the Rowe Institute took on the job of doing a training that included all the way from AI literacy to proficiency to business usage of AI to what executives should know about AI, et cetera. That program has been, Bob recently actually told his board, I wasn't in that session, that it has exceeded his expectations and wants to do even more. And the thing that is interesting about Bangor Savings Bank, and I said it yesterday, they are ahead of the rest of the world because he, as CEO, saw an opportunity to say, hey, I buy this experiential thing. I want all the training to happen in the context of projects where you guys execute. Some of them are responsible AI projects, by the way. All of the work we run through the audit of the responsible AI practice. But the whole idea is use the projects for my employees to see, here's how I do my job today. Here's how I could be doing my job using this technology. A, it's not threatening. B, we're practicing it correctly and we understand the risks. And C, that learning sticks when you actually see it right there in front of you and you've actually seen it executed. So part of that agreement is to do 5 projects. We've done some amazing projects with Jackson Laboratory. Jax is a great partner. We've done some amazing work with, one of the earliest projects was with Sun Life, the RMS, right here in town, where they actually not only insisted on solving an AI problem, but doing it in the context of a class that's run in parallel. It was kind of a dream come true for me. They insisted that we have a practicum course running in parallel to the development of the solution in the AI Solutions Hub so that their employees can also benefit. They wanted to see how our students do. They ended up sending some of their actuaries into the course as students, which everybody loved, actually. So those are great examples where I would say some of the companies in Maine are way ahead of big national companies. And that's what gets me encouraged and buzzed here, because I think we can start setting the examples and growing this idea of how to do AI responsibly and pragmatically.
Terrific. We have a queue. It is time to take questions. I am
Yes.
sure that there are questions in the audience.
Before we take any questions, we have a lot of people here today. We're hoping to get as many questions as possible. If everyone can just state their name, their company, and just keep their questions and comments briefly, please. So.
Thank you. Tony Iris from Simple Gifts. for a nonprofit in Portland. I would think there'd be a great opportunity for AI in medical diagnostics. In other words, a patient comes in with all kinds of bizarre symptoms. You feed these into a computer, it asks questions, and it spits out possible diseases. Is that happening now?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, we are working with Maine Health on a few problems, but one of them that I'll mention here very quickly. This is work led by Ray Winslow and his team at the Rowe Institute. How do you decide who should be in the critical care unit? If you keep somebody there longer than needed, you're utilizing a rare resource badly. If you release them or downgrade them too quickly, you cause problems and the problems get worse, right? So that's a very tricky problem where it's very hard for humans to judge. But, and as Ray says, AI is a valued member of the medical care team. That AI could make a recommendation and say, we think for this patient, it is okay to downgrade. We think for this patient, you should be upgrading them into critical care before things get worse. That application now, think about this, the consequences. It sounds simple, it sounds nice, and it sounds like just AI. But to make the AI work, you need the data. To make the data work, you need to be able to plug in to all the vitals and measurement devices and all of that. So that's been a huge lift that happened by the team, mostly at Maine Health, to enable the collection of that data and then enable all these algorithms to start running. Another project we're super excited about is in what we call digital pathology. Like in radiology, The US started centralizing radiologists a long time ago, about 20 years ago. So all the data, you take an X-ray image, it gets digitized, gets sent to Denver or one of these centers where it gets read and a report sent back, and then the physician looks at the image and the report and talks to the patient. That is an amazing chance to do AI and to do digitization. If you go to pathology, they're still living in the 70s and 80s, meaning, I walk into a pathology lab and typically my question is, where is your data? And they look at me, what data? We have a whole bunch of slides. We have 100,000 slides sitting here. And I'll say, what's that thing in the corner? Oh, it's a high resolution scanner. Why aren't you scanning the slides into images? Oh, the images are so big, we won't know what to do with them, right? Those are the kinds of issues where, like, if you make AI work for digital pathology, not only can you speed it up, in many cases you can increase accuracy, you can avoid missed issues and so forth. So that's another huge project we have also in New England with a relatively small, well, it's a larger, 200 kind of medical practitioners in a practice group who basically said, take our lab, let's build digital pathology and let's turn it into a product that we sell to other companies, to other medical practices like ours and other hospitals and so forth. So I think in diagnostics, it's a huge opportunity, but you have to do it right? And there are many, many cases of bad decisions there. I mean, to reinforce Jansu's point, during COVID, the pulse oximeters became very popular to use, right? I had one and I was always measuring my oxygen levels. Little did I know that these things were trained. I mean, they are out there in the probably hundreds of millions of units. They were trained mostly on fair-skinned people. So if you have darker skin, the actual readings you get out of it are not accurate. But nobody thought about that, right? Why? Because a bunch of engineers built it on whatever data was available, and the data that was available happened to be for the higher income, typically white populations and so forth. And nobody intended this, but that bias is built in, right? And that's the kind of thing we want to avoid.
Riley Worth, graduate student here at USM. AI ethics question. So I've worked in the field of autonomous weapons, and we have a bit of a problem there, where as certain countries get further ahead, we have a race to the bottom, where those trying to catch up engage in way more risky behavior, giving their AI permissions to do things with weapons that we might not otherwise choose. I wonder if you see a similar risk in the business field. I know you mentioned your first comment was, if you're 50, 60% behind, you might be stuck there. So for these companies that are not adopting AI quickly enough, do you worry that in trying to catch up, they're going to take risks that maybe they otherwise shouldn't? Thank you.
Yes.
For you.
The answer is yes. I worry all the time.
So what do you do about it?
Try to convince them to work. Well, no, that's a really good question, because the way that we are talking about AI systems, so like, let's use the example that Usama just gave about the reading of the oxygen levels of the humans, right, individuals. That was a great idea, and it is life-saving idea, and it makes, it's not life-saving only for those who are using the device. It's also life-saving in the sense that it allocates the right resources to the right place so that other life-saving surgeries can happen, right? So that's a great idea with the right attitude and the mindset that went wrongly because of obvious mistakes. And in this case, like very obvious mistakes. This wouldn't have taken us deep soul searching to figure out what's wrong with it. It would have been a very straightforward responsible AI practices that we would implement without even thinking, without even necessarily knowing. Like if you ask me what should I do, I would say, yeah, do the bias testing. It would have been gotten rid of that. Instead, it killed, right? Like killed straight up. We are not talking about, oh, you lost some profit. No, it killed. So when I think about are people, are companies, organizations, and bigger the organization, bigger the risk if they go wrong, of course, they are adopting these systems without thinking about the ethical aspects of it. Yes, I'm very worried, because what we need to be pushing for is this understanding of, look, if you don't go fast enough, you are gonna lose the game. But if you go too fast, you're probably gonna crash the car, and you're still gonna lose the game. So like, if you're thinking of this like a race, you shouldn't be racing in a car that is not built for it if you don't know how to control it and if you don't have the good brakes. You're going to crash. So yes, get in the race, get the right things in place, but while you are thinking about which AI systems to use, that's the moment that you should also ask the ethical question. Not right before you're about to deploy, you come to me, which is always what happens, and say, is this ethical? And then I have to say, no, it's not. And now we are going to have to go back and fix it, and you are going to lose so much more resources. We had this, this was actually in Europe, one of the projects that I did. It was a project on security cameras, internal for the houses, internal and external security cameras. Right before they released the new product, they're like, is this ethical, by the way? And we looked at it, it's not. It has a lot of accuracy problems. It's doing surveillance. You need a lot of safeguards in place if you're going to do internal, external surveillance of a house. What happened is that we had to stop the release. We had to stop the launch. It pissed them off massively. We fixed it. We mitigated all the risks. We made sure that not only that we reduce the risks as much as possible, but we also communicate what is remaining. Because chances are you are not going to have like a zero-risk AI system. But again, you have humans. Make sure that they understand what to look out for, what to safeguard for. Then they released it. And they got a national award for being a safe and trustworthy AI company. And if you're in home security, that matters. People want to trust you. It's not just, oh, did I get the right film recommendation? Not that much trust is necessary for that. So it's important to calibrate your excitement with the risks that you are taking. Don't step back, but do the right things at the right time, not at the last minute.
I'm Alain with the Enterprise. We are a non-profit. My question is, how does the current AI revolution compare with the other revolution in industrial internet we have lived on? And how does the regular employee can adapt to that job shipment, displacement, creation, loss? Yeah.
I mean, I'll give you, the real answer is, I don't know and none of us knows, but what I could tell you is we are in the very early stages, right? So this is, if I were to compare it to the internet, this is the early stages at the kind of dawn of the release of the first browser that changed the use of the internet from a very utilitarian, very technical usage, mainly Defense Department and some universities using it for something at the time called email, which was very innovative, to something that a consumer could use. And when that happened, all sorts of stuff that we never anticipated, right, happened. Companies like Amazon and the whole online commerce and all of that happened. I think we are at a very similar stage here. And the reason for that is not the amazing technology. The reason for that is we have built a knowledge economy around ourselves, which is filled with these robotic, repetitive, droning tasks. And suddenly something shows up that says, hey, if you're doing something repetitive and robotic, guess what? The stochastic parrot, is very good at this, right? Let me do it on your behalf, and you can check my work. That is a whole new way of thinking about a lot of the tasks that we created in the world around us. Now, this also comes with certain risks. Like to me, some people who are very smart and got big awards and so forth, most recently Nobel Prize, worry about, will this technology get so smart that it makes humans useless and obsolete, right? And my answer is that's not the danger. I actually am not worried. In the current technology, I'm not worried about it becoming super smart and replacing kind of the need for humans. The biggest worry I have, and this is very related to responsible AI, is it has lowered the bar on the ability to create fake information, right? So if I want to, destroy the reputation of Mike Polastri, right? Today.
Again, no.
Once more, but this time forever. No. The mic helps us a lot at the Institute, by the way, so we're very grateful. My ability to say, hey, I want to create a fake article about Mike, and I want to create about 1,000 variations of that article. And I want to publish those 1,000 variations on a few hundred different websites. And I want to have those websites, these are fake websites. I want to have those websites have thousands of robotic followers to make it look real. I can press a few buttons today and make it happen. I could produce videos of Mike saying really bad stuff, right? That used to take months. This now takes 10 to 20 seconds. All I have to do is record him or grab some of his lectures, right? So suddenly, you have an ability to completely, either do phishing or fake news or attacks, cybersecurity, and the bar has been lowered dramatically to a point where you can no longer trust anything you see, read, hear, or interact with online. And guess what? We live online these days. That is the real threat to humanity, which is what happens when your world gets turned upside down and nothing you see in the online digital world is something you can believe or trust. That's what we have to worry about. And this is where responsible AI comes in a big way.
We have time for one quick question and answer.
Hi, Sam Tracy with Clink. My question is for Shansu. I work in state policy, and there's a whole lot of folks looking to regulate AI at the federal level. It's very slow moving, of course. And some people are saying, oh, we should do it at the state level instead, but that could create a big patchwork of regulations. As someone working in the legal law side of things, should it be done at the state level, federal level, or is it kind of too fast moving to even do it legislatively?
Difficult question, and honestly, so I say this all the time, I only answer the questions that are exactly in my expertise. And I don't do policy. And this is important because I think this is one of those questions, it's almost like a game theory question that you are looking at. Like, how do you move forward when you have multiple players trying to achieve two things? One, get the innovation out there, but also make sure that you don't lose the trust of your society, and you make sure that your society, your people, gain better life circumstances together without leaving half of it behind and trapping them for the rest of their lives. It's a very difficult question in terms of policy because when you look backwards, a lot of the regulation did indeed result in this cluttering where we then had to weed through and say, well, actually, that's not getting us to the ethical outcome. So we need to be very, very careful and not clutter the regulatory structure. On the other hand, I can speak all day, and I may be able to convince some of you to take ethical action, but if there's a law, you will all take the action because there's an incentive. So there has to be some way of incentivizing the right actions. So I guess one simple answer that I can give I worked with policymakers in thinking what is an ethical way of developing policies. So one simple answer is put in the thresholds and like the boundaries without getting too micromanagement yet. Because we know, for example, like saying that you have to do your due diligence gives quite an incentive for companies to start thinking about these questions and implementing them at the right time without saying, do the bias testing, have this much of the ratio, and so on. That is could be too much. But yeah, it is a tricky question, and good luck.
We
need to wrap up?
Yep.
Okay.
So please join me in thanking Usama and Shansu for a great session. I'm sure that we will hang around if you have other questions you'd like to discuss.
Yeah, that was fantastic. Can we do another round of applause for this panel? I have a lot of takeaways, but I think the biggest is that AI is actually quite dumb. And I say that half jokingly, but I think it's a great reminder that we need human input to actually utilize AI to the best of its ability and to use it responsibly. And I do want to say, I know we could have used a lot more time on this conversation. We are working with the Roux Institute to do another program on this very topic. I hope Usama and Jansu will join us for that. I think it's going to be in June. So I hope you can all attend. And I do want to point out two individuals that are with us here today, Chris Mallett and Jim Ahern, if you guys can just like show people who you are and where you are. They are just incredible partners at the Roux. I feel like we are in each other's orbit now, the Chamber and the Roux, every single day, which I view as a really, really good sign that good things are happening, and they've just been awesome to work with, and the two of you made this panel happen, so thank you for that. June 6th. So the event is June 6th. Wow. Usama is going to kick it off, so you can have more of this conversation. And it's going to be morning through the afternoon, so a much longer presentation, and we're going to bring businesses like Bangor Savings Bank to the discussion so that you can actually hear how businesses are utilizing AI. So thank you for that. Next month, we are bringing to the stage the CEO of CMP, Joe Purington. So we're going to have a conversation here about that topic on May 15th. So we hope to see you then. Thank you all for coming today, and have a great rest of your week.